Hello, friends, and welcome back to Leading the Early Years for the Future. I'm your host, Amy Fabry, and today I have the real joy of speaking with Amy Chiu, an early childhood educator, consultant, and advocate for play-based, nature-based, and community-centered learning. Amy is an absolute delight, and we met last year, but Amy, since we met, things are looking a little different for you. You work in LA County. And I'm so grateful to you for joining me today and sharing your experience as a leader, particularly through some really traumatic recent events. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Amy. I've really enjoyed reconnecting with you today. Excuse me. And yes, you're right. So much has happened in a span of a couple of months. And I'm excited to share a little bit of what's been happening recently in my leadership. And I hope that it is helpful to your listeners. I certainly hope that it connects us on some level because I think that the work we do is just so community-centered. And that's really the focus of why I'm on your show today. I really want to talk about community.
That's beautiful. And I'm really looking forward to listening to you share your experience. Can you start by giving us a bit of context?
Sure.
There might be listeners all around the world. Give us some context to where you work as a leader and educator.
That's right. So I'm based in Los Angeles, California, and LA is a very big place. So I'm in LA County, not LA City. I say this because something happened a month ago in LA County. Wildfires started in my community. In fact, where I worked in the Pacific Palisades, that's where the first wildfire started. And it destroyed our town. It burned down our school. It burned down houses. 90% of our families lost their homes. All the infrastructure is gone. There's not even a place to return to. Even families that did not lose homes, they cannot move back yet. There are a lot of hazardous materials in the air, all of that. So, yes, so this has been life-changing. I definitely am in a state of trauma and grief. So I wanted to speak to that and how it's impacted my leadership. And really, I would have to say that it's impacted my brain.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time remembering things, organizing my ideas and thoughts. It's really impacted my executive functioning. And so, of course, I counted on that. I took it for granted that I could access that as a leader. And so now working these days, these past 3 weeks through this traumatic event has been very challenging, additionally challenging for me and my administrative team. And for our staff too, our teachers and families. But I want to focus on what happened in the aftermath. So the fire started on a Tuesday, and by Thursday, we found out our school had burned down. And the first thing that we as an administrative team wanted to do, I worked closely with 3 other administrators. We thought, how are we going to reunite with our families? That was really our number one priority. So in the midst of grieving the loss of our school, we really knew that the most important thing to do right away was to find a place where we can reunite. So immediately, we started reaching out to educators in our network, schools in the LA area. And very quickly, a preschool in nearby Santa Monica talked to us and said, hey, we might have a space for you. We were thrilled. We couldn't believe at the quick response. We were so thankful. So we visited this sweet preschool, and they're called Palisades Preschool, by the way. So it's kind of interesting because we're Methodist Preschool of Pacific Palisades, and they're called Palisades Preschool. And so we found sort of a natural affinity. It was a good sign, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we walked into the program. The director, Linda, was so welcoming, and she held space for us. We cried, we wept together.
Yeah.
It's something that is affecting the whole of Los Angeles. And so we started working right away. We decided, yes, we could make this space work. We were given a space in their basement with a large hall and 2 smaller classrooms. These were shared spaces, so there were some scheduling conflicts. So one of the days, on Wednesday, wasn't going to work out there. So we reached out to other resources to see, hey, can we crash at your place on Wednesdays for our families? And the Children's Museum in Santa Monica actually are hosting us now. So again,
Oh,
people showed
wow.
up for us in the best ways
They're
immediately.
beautiful. Mm.
Really, really beautiful. And so after that, after we had our temporary space ready, we got our staff back together for the first time in one big room. And of course, they were also going through their own emotions. This school was very, very special for so many of us. I mean, I can't tell you how many parents, former teachers have reached out to say how wonderful, the school is, how wonderful we are to try to continue. And so it's giving us lots of courage and hope.
Amazing.
And so now we're, a month after the fact, and we're running our program. We're making it work.
Yeah. Wow.
All the while, we're looking for a more semi-permanent home.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
we're just borrowing the space for now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible, Amy. You know, to I'm processing so much here, and I'm trying to put myself in your shoes because I honestly just cannot imagine what it must be like to go through this kind of traumatic event that, has such a devastating loss on your whole community. You mentioned 90% of your families lost their homes. You've lost your preschool, which is a pivotal part of a community that brings people together, whether you're educators, families, children, past educators and families. Our schools are just such beautiful, important places in our communities that bring people together. So the impact this would be having on you as a leader, and you mentioned that briefly, how do you navigate your own trauma and need to grieve whilst you also, like, I'm honestly sitting here in awe of you thinking, how did you process all of that and then be able to step into, well, this is what we need to do and let's reach out to people and how do we get the program up and running? And I see why that's so important too. Are you comfortable to sort of talk us through that?
Yes, I can. And I can't tell you, though, that I had a plan. I think we were just go, go, go. And, something about experiencing this collective trauma together, I think has bonded us even closer. So for that, I'm really thankful because my team is strong. And so there was not a doubt in our mind that this is what we wanted to do, was to find a place to reunite our families. And that gave us a purpose in the days after the fact. That gave us something, right, to work towards. And that helped me to feel more helpful when I was feeling helpless. So how did I deal with it myself? I mean, obviously, to be honest, I've cried every single day. I've cried every single day. And I think that's a great outlet. I just needed to let it out. And I tell my staff this too, whatever you're feeling right now, that's what you're feeling. It's okay. I also started therapy right away. Again, because so many people, organizations, schools have reached out to extend help and support. I was able to link up with a therapist who offered pro bono work. Many therapists in the LA area are doing that right now for our community. And I wanted to do that because I knew I had to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Not only do I have to show up for my staff, I have to show up for my family at home, right? And it's not easy. I'm taking it day by day. That's really the truth. And I'm leaning on all my loved ones, at work, at home. They're all part of my broad base of support. So I'm thankful I have so many people I can count on.
It's amazing. Amazing. and so important. And I can see how that, that focus on purpose can help you to shift from feeling helpless to actually we can be helpful, and this is what we can do, somewhere to put your energy and your focus. And I guess, I'm kind of reflecting too that as educators, so much of our work is really around service to community, right? Service to families and children. And I think that's where the reward comes. And so I'm really reflecting on the power of having that purpose and, to be of service and support the community that can help navigate, the smallest to the greatest of challenges. And you really are experiencing the absolute greatest of challenges that you wouldn't even think would happen to you, right?
Oh, never in a million years would I imagine the whole town gone. It's going to take years to rebuild. But
Yeah.
the community is strong. So that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's the thing that is going to be our foundation for however we rebuild, wherever.
Mm.
It's what keeps me going. And it's actually the first time I can, because I talk about community a lot. We talk about
Yeah.
community in our
Yeah.
work. But to feel that community is
Mm.
amazing. It's amazing. And
Mm.
it's beautiful. It's heartbreaking, but it's beautiful.
Mm.
So the fire that happened in the Palisades wasn't the only wildfire. The fires also popped up in other parts of LA County. And so a lot of Los Angeles has been impacted. In the neighborhood of Altadena, also, they lost entire communities as well. And so
Yep.
there's that, even though it's tragic, it really ties us to one another, in community.
Mm.
Even if we don't
Mm.
know one another, we're going
Yeah.
through the same thing together. And it's really powerful. It's really powerful. I'd rather use this tragedy to build back better, to, strengthen our community. Because I hope that we stay like this, right? Because sometimes, it's easy to complain about how disconnected people are, that they don't really care so much. But I'm feeling a lot of love and care and support right now. So I hope that
Mm.
continues.
That's really beautiful. And it's interesting, isn't it? If you reflect on, I think society as a whole, we are becoming more disconnected. And yet you're talking about connection, and it is our shared lived experiences that connect us. And so even through a tragedy such as a wildfire, you are coming together stronger because you've all been through something really horrific together. And it's that shared experience that, like you said, even strangers you can connect with because you suddenly have this shared experience. And you often hear about, whether it's floods or fires or devastation, that actually brings people together. And it's where we see humanity shine, right? The offers of support, we've got space for you. And whether it's here's some resources or here's a space, but even, I'm hearing you talk about the humanness of let's cry together, let's actually grieve together. It's really, really powerful. I have goosebumps, Amy, actually listening to you talk about this. It's so profound. I'd love to know how do you make space for your team, to go through the emotions and again, to share the experience. I guess there's a part of you that wants to be, well, for everyone wants to get on and how do we support our families and children, but how do you balance that with actually grieving and supporting your whole team emotionally through this process?
Yeah. So, well, a lot of communication, a lot of check-ins, just more than usual, probably. Hey, are you doing okay? Do you need anything? Or maybe a gentle touch if that's what they like, right? I'm thinking of everyone's different love languages and how to meet their individual needs. But just even telling my staff, because I was always a huge proponent on slowing down in education, really feeling our feelings and
Mm.
all of that. And so it was a narrative that I continued, like it's okay right now, wherever you are. You're
Mm.
struggling. I am too. We're all sort of struggling and trying to figure it out. It's okay. If you need to step away, because, you don't want to
Yeah.
cry in front of people, go ahead, let me know. We'll step in for you,
Mm.
right? So we're being that for one another.
Yeah.
I'll
Amazing.
share this analogy actually that's come up a lot in recent weeks, the analogy of flying geese. So in a flock of geese, they fly and there's a leader leading the way. And then when the leader
Mm-hmm.
gets tired, the leader goes to the back and someone else takes the lead.
Mm.
And that's what we're doing for one another. Okay. No matter our
Mm.
title, right? We have to do
Mm-hmm.
that for one another. That when I'm not feeling so strong, maybe someone else will step in and take the lead.
Mm.
And so in
Mm.
that way, we can take breaks and check in with individual needs, all of that. And so that's what we're doing. We're being flying geese.
Yeah. Wow. That's so beautiful. So powerful. Again, just the human connection side, to see everyone as equals and we're in this together, and to share that, even that idea of leadership. It's not just about the role and who's the head of the preschool, but actually we're all leaders, and recognizing and responding to how people are, because I guess everyone is so different anyway. But when you go through an event like this, you're not all going to respond the same way. You're not all going to
That's correct.
experience the same emotions or
Mhm.
on the same day. You'll probably
Exactly.
have similar ones, but there'll be days where you're strong, like you said, and days when you don't feel so strong.
Mhm.
I love that you have this beautiful team around you, and you can all share that load together and step up and be there for each other. And I imagine that comes from some modeling, though, and making space for that.
Yes.
Having those really honest conversations about it's okay to not be okay. You know, things like this kind of culture that you have at the preschool, amongst your team, it doesn't just happen on its own, right? There is some
No. Mhm.
modeling, some thinking, some sharing, some guidance that sort of helps to create that.
Yes, there's definitely a strong culture within our school. Our mission, we're a preschool, right? But our
Mm.
mission is much more than just teaching young children. It's about providing a safe and loving place for our children and families, and also by extension, our staff. We want our staff to find school to be inspiring and safe and comforting as well.
Mm.
And even though our building is gone, I can tell you that the fact that we remain together, that spirit is still there. And
Mm.
so I have no doubt wherever we land, we will continue that because that's who we are. And I'm really thankful, actually. I'm most thankful that we kept our staff together, because I think it's great for morale. At a time when we're already kind of feeling low, this is really the best thing for us to stay together. And so that's why it was really important for us to reopen as soon as possible, so our staff can, again, do what they do best, be with children,
Mm.
teach,
Mm.
all of that stuff, take care of the school. And it gave us something to do, and to also reunite with the children, because in the absence of children, that grief hit us that much harder.
Yeah.
And when they were back,
Mm-hmm.
their little faces, their little bodies coming through, smiling,
Mm-hmm.
joking, or
Mm.
crying, all of
Yeah.
it just
Yep.
made us feel like, okay. We're home. The children are here. Families are back.
Amazing. Children just have this amazing. They're just such a gift, aren't they?
Yeah.
If I even think about my own journey as an educator and a leader, when things are tough, children always make everything better. They just make
They
everything
do.
better.
They are a natural remedy, honestly, for depression. And so, and I know that I'm going through the stages of grief, and one of them is depression. And I've definitely hit that spot a few times recently. But when I'm around the children, they just somehow help me to stay in the moment, right? To appreciate what's happening right in front of me instead of ruminating or wondering, what if I did this or that? And so, yeah, they're really wise in that way. They really teach me how to be grounded in the present moment. And so I just adore children. We all do, right? We adore children. That's why we're here. And, but now they're teaching us a lot. They really are. And I have to also give a big shout out to our families. Like I said, most of them lost everything. lost everything, the life they knew, and still they're here supporting our school. Uh, they're making donations of school supplies and
Oh,
things that we need,
wow.
because remember, we have nothing now. We are just running on the kindness of others.
Mm.
And I just can't, for me too, I can't believe how much they're willing to help, even as they're dealing with everything.
Yeah.
And some of them have multiple children who go to different schools, and our school
Mm-hmm.
was not the only one that burned. So
Mm.
now they're doing lots of different pickups and drop offs and living, I mean, our families are scattered all around LA County. It was very hard
Yeah.
to find housing. I won't get into that part. I really can get into a lot of the, how the other effects of our community of, lack of housing,
Mm.
price gouging by landlords, things like that, taking advantage of a situation. But I have to say, wow, they're providing a lot of support, which is making me more resilient. So
Yeah.
it's
Amazing.
taking all of us. If I had to face this on my own, forget it. But
Yep.
because I have such a strong community, we're going to get through this.
Mm. Absolutely. So much power in community, right? Whether you're talking about your team, whether you're talking about the broader community, the families and children, we all need each other.
We do.
We all need each other, and it is that kindness of others and support from others that helps us to keep going. You mentioned, different stages of grief and depression, and the children are a sort of a somewhat remedy, I guess, that help you kind of get through. What else helps you to get through this as a leader?
Well, I am so proud of the team that I work with. I'll start with my admin team. It's the four of us. And we grew up at this school as humans, as educators. And so this
Mm.
really is a devastation unlike any other I've ever experienced. But to have each other and to continue to have each other's backs,
Mm.
it's really powerful. And we just enjoy each other's company. We can
Yeah.
make each other laugh in the darkest of moments. And I so appreciate that. I really do. We need
Mm.
that laughter. We need that joy sometimes. It's okay. Sometimes I feel guilty, like, oh, should I really be this happy right now? But
Mm.
I allow myself that because that's real. It's real. We really
Mm.
enjoy each other. We really enjoy the work we do. We find it really
Mm.
meaningful and powerful and important. And so that's what keeps me going. Of course, my family members too at home. I have a wonderful partner who has been just so accepting of where I am every single day. We'll do a little check in, and he helps me to co-regulate for sure. He's been my
Mhm.
co-regulator at home.
Mm.
So we have lots of downtime when I get home, and
Yep.
that's it. I think I just need that. It's been hard to take breaks from work because
Yep.
a lot of decisions are time sensitive, but I am trying again to realize that I do need to take a break on occasion. My partner is reminding me of this. And he says, it's not because I don't want you to continue working. I know it's important to you, but you need to take care of yourself so you don't burn out.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I'm thankful for that too, because
Yeah.
right now there is no balance. I don't know. I don't have a work-life balance. It seems to be work, work, work all the time. And
Mhm.
working as an administrator at this preschool isn't my only job. And so I I'm teaching child development in college, and so I've had to pivot a little bit. My semester just started, and so I realized too, okay, I need to not be completely obsessed with my preschool work. I need to now compartmentalize a bit and
Mm.
bring my focus, shift my focus a little bit, because my students there need me too. And so
Mm.
just working on day by day, finding more
Yeah.
balance and finding a better flow for work and home.
Yeah. Wow. So much to navigate right now. I can see how, it is so important to look after yourself. And, sometimes as leaders, we forget to do that. It's so great that you've got people around you, at the preschool, but also at home, your family to remind you of that. And I can imagine, when there's lots to do, particularly as you navigate the challenges with the preschooling, it would be easy to just keep working, particularly when there are people that need you. But to actually be able to look after yourself in that process and take that downtime is pivotal, as you said, so that you don't burn out. And really good, I think, a great reminder for all leaders, that we can't lead well when we're not well ourselves, and whether that's burnout or overwhelm or stress or whatever it might be physically, it has an impact, right? And on our own mental health and well-being, that's so important.
Yeah. It still has to come first. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think mental health still has to come first. And so I'm happy for the reminders because, I think I'm fighting myself a little bit when people tell me this, but no, I have to finish these 10 things. I don't want people waiting on me, but you're right, because I have to think in the long term. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, so true. And so much of leadership is kind of that long game, right? You're talking about a marathon and you're literally talking about rebuilding a school, which is enormous. But I think, it's easy to think, I just have to get all the things done now, but actually to remember that some of this stuff is part of the long-term game, and this is where are we headed towards, and what are the small steps I can do now towards the bigger picture, and not feeling like everything has to be done yesterday.
Yes,
which I know is one of my flaws. Sometimes being a little impatient.
Yeah. Oh, same here. And, talk about, I get to practice everything I preach now, for real. Like, I used to just say it, and now I really have to remind myself to be it, to embody it. And so, I'm trying hard, to grow myself just as a person, but also as a leader for my team.
Yeah, yeah. And modeling that would be really powerful to your team as well. How do you navigate this? As a leader, I'm thinking, you said there's lots of decisions to make and sometimes they're time sensitive. Where do you start? When you literally don't have a school. You mentioned, it sounds like some of the first steps for you were reaching out to some of the local preschools and other schools for support, or the Children's Museum. I mean, apart from finding that physical space, like where do you go from here as a leader? How do you know where to go and what to do and make decisions, to support the children and families and to keep the program going?
That was our first initiative, finding a temporary location. So that was the most urgent matter for a while. And now that we have found that temporary space, it has opened us up to maybe slow down just a smidge. I'm not sure that I have a plan. Again, my executive functioning has been so impacted that it feels like we're just going with, with little intention. Like it's just kind of where we're reacting to, emails coming through, people needing information from us, things like that. But now we are starting to settle into our routine. The children have been in school now for 3 weeks. So we're starting to see a shift because there's more of a routine now. We can now talk more about curriculum, right? And the first weeks was really just about establishing safety and security. Even though the staff were the same, the space was different, the environment was different. And so we just try to make as cozy and comfortable as possible with familiar favorites, making sure there's, they have what they needed, snacks, right? Children always bond over snacks and meal times, having lots of movement, music, all of those things. I didn't mention this earlier, but, in the first week, of course, we didn't even go outside because the air was full of ash and soot. And so that's something else that our preschool area preschools have to contend with. We had to do a whole clean down of our outdoor environment, all the surfaces, replace the sand in the sandboxes. We had to do a lot of those things. So those little tasks, just kept us going, moving forward. But yes, now we're in a place where the children are somewhat settled into a routine. And so the teachers are back, doing what they do best, which is curriculum, kind of like seeing what the children are interested in their new environment and new connections they're making and making the most of it. And so for that, I'm really grateful. They're really great.
Mm.
As for administration, I mean, it's just it has been nonstop. Um, just this past Saturday, actually, I realized Saturday night, oh, nobody checked in about anything today. Nobody texted today. And I was actually
Wow.
like thankful for that. It was the
Yeah.
first day that we just went radio silent. We didn't plan it. And then when we went back on Monday, we, all decided that we needed that. We really needed that. We didn't plan it, but we needed it and we did it. We just need
Yep.
to take a break from the intensity of things to, have time for other things, our families, our personal errands, all
Yeah.
of those things that
Yeah.
haven't,
Yep.
disappeared. They're still there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's helping in a way to at least have some type of a routine and rhythm now in the school day.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm reflecting on the fact that, you talked about first and foremost, it was really about making everyone feel safe and secure and connect to a new environment, new routines. And I'm reflecting on even the fact that that's so foundational for all of us as human beings to thrive is actually recognizing our basic human needs. Like we need to feel safe, feel a sense of belonging, and in a new environment, even though you might have the same people and the same faces, there's still uncertainty and it's unfamiliar. And, just allowing space for that, I think, is so important. And sometimes we can forget how important it is to just be human, to connect with each other, to reestablish those relationships, to feel what we're feeling, to have time. And, you've mentioned a few times slowing down to actually just, does everyone have food? Do we have what we need? Are the families supported with the new routines and the new places that we're coming to kind of gather together, to really establish those human foundations? And, I'm thinking here of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yes.
Once we've got the basic needs, and when you think about the experience that you've been through and are going through, some of those basic needs were removed. So it is really about actually starting again and reestablishing those first before we can think about things like curriculum. And,
Oh, yes.
I imagine the children probably have lots of questions too, and lots of the conversations and play and curiosity is around what they're experiencing together. How are you and the educators finding that and navigating that aspect?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. That was actually one of our biggest concerns, maybe not concern, but interest in the right before we were set to reopen again. We had a
Yep.
big meeting, all of us, to talk about how to prepare for conversations about the fire or rubble. So we also wanted to inform the parents about how we would address things as they came up. So two of our school administrators are also preschool parents. So not only did they lose their workplace, they also lost their child's preschool. And I could tell that it was even hard for them to tell their own children about what happened to the school. It took a long time before they broached that conversation, which made me realize, wow, this is really one of the toughest conversations I think, a parent or caregiver can have with a child. And we also knew that not all parents had told their children about what happened. Some of them just picked up and left, and they haven't, talked about whether their house was okay or not. So we were prepared for many different scenarios.
Yeah.
So, I usually say this, when I'm working with teachers and they say, how do I talk about, they want to know about death or, life and death. How do I talk about it? Right. And I always say, depends on the child, right? It really depends on the child. And, I think as adults, we can put a lot of our adult emotions, we can project, right, our adult emotions onto the children, which might not be accurate. And so it just begins with spending time with children, listening to what they're talking about, seeing what they're playing, right? We're gathering facts all over again to kind of determine how do we want to drive this, if it were to come up. We also knew that some children knew and might come to school and say, my house burned down in front of other children that didn't know, right? And so we were trying to prepare for many different scenarios. I have to say I was a bit nervous. I didn't know, who, what kind of children were going to show up. We knew that the family members would be quite emotional and tearful, and we held space for them to do that. But we didn't know how the children would respond. And honestly, I think they just wanted to play. They were happy, lots of hugs with teachers, playing on new equipment, reading new books. It seemed okay. And they also, of course, connected with their friends, number one. They got to see their friends again. And that was great. And so for a while, I would just listen. I'm not a classroom teacher, but now we're sort of in a large hall. So it's a very large hall, not really divided into rooms. So I can overhear lots of conversations and watch the children play. And so I would hear from time to time, or they'll come up to me and say, my house burned down. More of a statement, right? And so, I think it's really hard to hear that from a child. Like, wow, this is so heavy. They shouldn't even have to say this. But again, I really tried to not project my own feelings onto the situation. And I would just say, oh, I heard, tell me about it. Tell me more. And sometimes I opened up conversation and I had a kid saying, well, my dad is going to rebuild the house. He has a really tall ladder and he's going to help us make a big house, And so just listening to them. So, that showed me, right? That child is more like not in the past, but more about the future. And so we imagined the future together. Sometimes too, I'll hear, I miss my old school. I miss my old school. And I get that, so I validate it. I feel the same way. I miss it too. And, I realize it's not a time to change their minds. Like, well, but we have so many fun new things to play with. That's not what that's about, right? I'm not trying to change how they feel. I want to hear them. I want to validate what they're going through as important, as necessary for us to process this event together. So that's where we are. We're just holding space for all feelings, as we've always done. But I think now even more than ever, just really allowing everyone, young and old, to have the feelings that they have and to talk about it when we do feel comfortable talking about it. I mean, I don't like to break down in front of my staff. I don't. But I mean, sometimes it's emotional, right? Sometimes the tears just well up. And I think that's okay to show that. We're humans. We're going through something very, very challenging, very difficult.
Absolutely. I totally agree, Amy. And I think sometimes when we can sit as comfortably in our uncomfortable feelings, in front of other people, we can actually give them permission to do the same,
Yes.
And I think with the children, holding space for them, to just share more and say more about what they're experiencing and how they're feeling, is so probably hard, but so beautiful, to give them that space to grieve the preschool, to talk about what's happening at home, or, the fact that they might not have a home anymore, or a house to live in. These are huge events. And what kind of resonated with me too is, that you're acknowledging your own emotions in this process. And I can imagine that that's something that's different now, because, we hear children tell lots of stories and they have lots of diverse experiences anyway, but they're not our own experiences. And so when it is our own, suddenly, we bring emotions to that conversation as well. And so I'm really kind of processing that you're saying you're trying to hold yours back and not put them on the child, but actually just to create the space for them. I guess I just want to acknowledge that, I hear how hard this is, how heavy this is, how human it is, for you, for your educators, for the children and families. And, my heart goes out to all of you that you have to experience this. What I love is that, at the core of this experience is that beautiful humanness that is just coming through in everything that you've been talking about. Listening, making space for each other. And I think sometimes as human beings, we forget to do that. I think we are quite good at doing that as early childhood educators. But I guess as I listen to your story, what's really standing out for me is just the kindness of others, being able to connect and share this experience, make space and acknowledge the feelings, the grief that everybody is going through. And that is really beautiful.
It is. It really is. It's heartbreaking, but it's beautiful. It's, I wish we didn't have to go through this to experience what I'm experiencing now, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm really galvanized by everyone's efforts, honestly. It's just really brought everyone out of the woodworks to be supportive instead of being critical. Of course, I can't say the same for social media, unfortunately. People post what they do without really knowing the situation, and that's unfortunate. But that's noise to me. I cut that out. In fact, I really have to limit my social media consumption these days, because people are just continue to show the devastation and some really I'll say this one thing, like I saw a quick video of someone doing a photo shoot in front of rubble. Like that to me, I just don't understand. I really don't understand that. Like let's not make it worse.
Totally.
I think that's just unacceptable to me. But again, I think people just don't know that these are real people's lives that we're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Their real worldly possessions gone, their memories gone. I mean, their memories stay, but it's life changing, right? And
absolutely,
people shouldn't take advantage of that.
I can't believe people do these things.
Yeah, right. Don't do that. That's my only point.
Yeah, not at all. Such an amazing conversation with you today. Yeah, my heart is heavy for you, Amy, but I love the message of hope and humanness and emotions and connection that are coming through for your community. And I wish you all the love and support in the world as you continue to navigate this and keep going with the grace and the humanness that you're showing to your community. Keep looking after yourself.
Yes. Thank you, Amy. I really appreciate it. And I'm actually very thankful for this opportunity to share this story because I really do think out of this tragedy, we're going to be rebuilding. We're going to stay together and stay strong. And that's what I'm hanging on to. Of course, I miss what we had, of course. But the people, we're still together. And that's really the most important thing. We feel it's so important to stay together for our community. And whether we, have to wait years before we are back in the Pacific Palisades, we are going to continue our program. We're going to serve families in wherever we land. And we're going to continue having the same spirit that we have, the same mission. And I think that belongs to the people. That's not a part of the building.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a beautiful story of hope, right? And that's what gets us through whatever life throws our way, is having that hope and having that, that connection. And it is about the people. It's always about the people. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being so honest and open about it. It's heartbreaking, but beautiful at the same time. And, two things can be true, right? Looking towards the future with some hope, whilst also grieving what you've lost.
And I think that is, my heart's cracked open now and, I'm feeling all of it. And in a way, I feel alive because, it's just all my humanity is just at the surface now. There's no hiding it. And I think that's great. And I think I want to be here for a while.
Amazing. Oh,
thanks, Amy.
So beautiful, so powerful. Thank you, Amy. What a joy to talk to you.